Good morning to all of you out there. I'm your host for today, Cito Beltran. Welcome to the program agenda. It's Wednesday, July 14, 2021, and I hope that you are all doing well, kahit paano nakapagpahinga and have done your daily prayers to start off a good day. That's how you start a good day. Anyway, today we will have some interesting guests and we will revisit the status of a well-known senator. But before that, let's go to the front page of the Philippine Star and find out what are the important developments, what's the news out there. For today, let's go to the front page of the Philippine Star. And there you have it. Okay, the World Health Organization warns against mixing and matching COVID-19 vaccines from different manufacturers. World Health Organization calls it a dangerous trend, saying that there is little data available on the possible health impact or benefit of vaccine mix and match. The organization also blasted the plan of some countries considering booster shots, calling it greed as numerous nations are still vulnerable to the virus. In other news, you will see at the top of the Philippine Star front page, China still refuses to recognize the 5-year-old arbitration victory of the Philippines over the West Philippine Sea. In the upper part, you will read, piece of waste paper. China dismisses arbitral award. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian insists the 2016 arbitral award violates the principle of state consent and is just a piece of paper. Vice President Leni Robredo says she was no longer surprised with the Chinese official's message and thus called on the administration to show courage in responding to the issue. To quote Vice President Leni Robredo, she said, sana all ang reaction natin or ating protest against China. Now, for our regular viewers, you might recall that former Supreme Court Justice Antonio Carpio warned that when President Duterte said that the arbitral ruling was just a piece of paper he can throw into the garbage can, Carpio warned that this could be used by the Chinese government as their position for rejecting any future claims. Ayan po, nagkatotoo na po. Sinabi po yan ni Justice Carpio here on the program. And looks like that piece of paper is not going to be very much used to us because no less than the President labeled it as a piece of paper for the waste basket. The Commission on Elections, meanwhile, or COMELEC, will ban handshaking, kissing, and other gestures with physical contact during campaign for the 2022 elections. This as the nation continues to face the threat of another surge of COVID-19 cases. Right now, the COMELEC is very busy trying to get people to register, new voters and the inactive voters to register and activate their status for the 2022 elections. If our friends in the COMELEC are watching, I just hope you can also coordinate with the DFA, Department of Foreign Affairs. Kasi may mga embahada po tayo. We have embassies who can't seem to get enough help, local hire, to take care of this registration because we've heard reports that abroad, maraming mga gustong magparehistro, hindi marehistro kasi nagkakahirapan daw dahil kulang ang tao sa mga embahada. Okay, the quote of the day comes from the book of Isaiah in the Bible, chapter 61, verse 1 to 3. Pakinggan niyo po ito because this is a message of hope, of good news from our Lord Jesus Christ. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn, provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. Pasensya na kayo kung medyo mahaba. I chose that particular verse for two reasons. I personally have been ministering and trying to give support to, yesterday lang po, nakadalawa tayong byuda na tinutulungan. And by coincidence, the President has suddenly resurrected the name Senator Leila De Lima in his express public display of anger. Hindi PDA, hindi affection, anger. And tinira na naman niya si former Senator Trillanes and current Senator Leila De Lima. So we felt that, the President has been revisiting Leila De Lima. Perhaps we should also be visiting, because that's what the Bible says, visit those who are in prison. Ang problema nga lang po, several administrations have discovered that if you detain, whether criminal or political enemy, if you detain them in a military, particularly a police camp, hindi mabibisita. Kahit pastor, hindi makakabisita. I mean, I just want to put this out there. When ERAP, President Joseph Estrada was detained in Veterans Memorial Hospital and also in his residence or farm in Tanay, I was able to minister to him. We held Bible classes every Friday for 4 years in Tanay. Ito pong sumunod na mga administrasyon kay Pinoy, kay Duterte, ang hirap. Si PGMA, nabisita ko lang minsan nung naka-detain sa bahay niya, umakit pa ako ng bakod ng kapitbahay para lang ma-pray over si former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. But with people like Senator De Lima, medyo parang next to impossible. So the nearest we can go to Senator De Lima to find out how she is, to minister to her, is through her lawyer. Let's find out from her lawyer, legal counsel of Senator Leila De Lima, Attorney Dino De Leon. Attorney De Leon, good morning. Welcome to the program Agenda.
Good morning, Cito, and to all our viewers.
Alam mo, medyo allergic ako nung imbitahin ka. Akala ko matanda na yung abogado ni Senator De Lima. Napakabata mo, wala pala.
mukha lang, matanda na rin.
Okay. Senator tuloy. Attorney De Leon, first of all, I guess, how is the good senator doing? How is she in terms of health, her mental disposition? Mukha namang she tries to keep active, kanya lang walang-wala kami talagang balita kung kamusta na siya.
I just like to echo what you mentioned a while ago. Now, what's difficult about the case of Senator Leila De Lima right now is the fact that it is complicated with the pandemic. You've mentioned a while ago, Cito, that it has already been difficult to visit political prisoners once they are detained in a military camp or a police camp. More so for Senator Leila De Lima, because there's another excuse right now, which is the pandemic. In fact, what was difficult was for more than a month, actually, during the peak of the lockdowns, the good senator was really alone in virtual isolation because no visitor was allowed. Even us lawyers, even her case was disallowed during that time. So if Senator Leila De Lima were not made of sterner stuff, well, of course, her mental hurt would have suffered. She has been arbitrarily detained for more than 5 years now. But when we talk to her, what's good about Senator Leila De Lima, hindi nakikiusap eh. Alam mo, napakalakas kahit kami mismong mga abogado niya, mga staff niya, nahihirapan na ma'am, ano nang gagawin natin, naawa ka, di ba? Pero si Senator Leila De Lima, the only thing that she does is she holds her wooden crucifix every single time. And we are amazed about how strong her disposition is and how strong her resolve to fight for justice in this country is. So, despite the fact that she has been persecuted politically and she has been arbitrarily detained for for alleged crime she has never committed, she remains to be in good disposition. I was just with her around 2 weeks ago for almost 2 consecutive days because we had 2 separate hearings. And what's good about it was, she was mourning because of the death of President Pinoy, right?
Yeah.
And when we asked orally for with the court to allow her to at least do an e-burol, she was allowed to view the burol of President. I was with her for an hour while she was mourning.
Okay, I think we're having some technical difficulties with the signal of Attorney De Leon. Sana lang po ay normal lang, no? At hindi naman po kinakalikot ng kung sino para lang magulo itong ating interview. I don't want to be suspicious of people, but medyo this is an important interview because it gives us at least an idea of how the good senator is doing. Let's try that again. Okay, Attorney De Leon, let's second time.
Yes.
Okay, so naka-e-burol siya, naka-observe siya ng e-burol, palaban pa rin naman si Senador, physically okay naman siya, nasi-check up ba siya regularly, and paano, kasi alam mo, ayoko masampal ka ni Senator De Lima, no? Pero ilang taon na ba si Senator De Lima?
Senior citizen na si Senator Leila De Lima.
Pareho na kami.
Pareho na. Pero alam mo, ang difficult is, of course, the condition in prison is not as ideal as we want it to be. She doesn't have an air conditioning. Wala siyang television, wala siyang cellphone. For the last 5 years, wala siyang internet connection. Can you imagine? And of course, that had an impact on her health, especially just recently lang init sobra, no? So there was a time na she suffered, so we had to bring her emergency.
Sandali. Wala siyang aircon, wala siyang television, mainit, walang mga bisita.
Walang mga bisita.
Abay, ginawa talagang preso. Kasi, I mean, I'm sorry, no? I'm not taking sides here, but when I visited ERAP, he was in the hospital. When PGMA was confined, she was detained in the hospital and then placed under house arrest. When I visited Senator Bong Revilla and Senator Jinggoy Estrada when they were detained, ang pagkakaintindi ko naman parang nasa sala ka lang ng middle class na tao, may electric fan, may TV, may aircon pa sa kwarto. Kasi nga naman, dinidinig pa yung kaso, hindi ka pa sentensyado at binibigyan galang yung pagkasenador. But in this case, how big is her room?
She has her own quarters, so malaki-laki naman. No? She has her own space where we can walk around. But yes, there's no air conditioning. Meron naman yung medyo malamig-lamig na electric fan. But that was after she was brought to the hospital. No? Precisely because the doctor said na the immense heat was taking a toll on her health. But she is okay now. No? She is in good health. She is in good shape. And she is holding on to her crucifix every day to give her strength, and her wooden crucifix.
Okay.
Nakikita ko rin yun, medyo malakas din ang loob ko kasi hindi naman ako yung nakakulong, abogado niya lang ako and we know for a fact that what she is experiencing is not easy. It's not
Okay.
very easy.
Okay,
Ang
now,
lagi niya nga sinasabi, panalangin lang
yes.
sana siya lagi at huwag siyang kakalimutan sinasabi.
Okay, now ang tanong, no, just for clarification, because when I first inquired about the status of Senator De Lima, some lawyers, and I think there was even a government official who came on board. I just can't remember because this was, several years back. Ang pinagpipilitan ng mga prosecutor is that Senator De Lima could have filed for bail. But she, instead of filing for bail and working her case while in the Senate, she opted to or elected to not to file for bail para may establish na siya ay political prisoner. Ngayon, ang tanong, ano ba talaga si Leila De Lima by definition of law? Is she a political prisoner? Is she someone who just simply did not elect for bail? And what about her being a senator? Parang sabi ko, bakit hindi man lang anong tawag, inarbor ni Senator Tito Soto or someone in the Senate? Pare, badge na yan, no? Arbor na namin yan, kami na lang ang mag-aasikaso.
Well, Cito, no? To begin with the evidence that was presented thus far, there are three drug cases that was charged against Senator De
Careful
Lima.
lang ha. Careful lang ha, attorney ha. Ikaw yung abogado, ako yung media, pero ayoko rin makasuhan dito ng subjudice ha.
Yes, of course. Well, sub judice doctrine naman is factual. Kung factual sinasabi natin, okay lang rin naman. No? Sa criminal case 166 muna pinunahin, no? Yon ay na-dismiss na precisely because nag-grant yung aming demurrer to evidence. No? In all these cases, we all know, and these are borne by records, no? There was no drug presented, and this is a drug case. Walang umaamin, at least for criminal case 165, na may drug lord. But the charge is conspiracy to commit drug trading. So our stand and the stand of the Senator Leila De Lima is to begin with, right from the very start, based on the evidence on record, even probable cause would have been difficult to establish, diba? But it's already here, diba? It's already here, and we are already facing. So the good senator is already facing the case. But the fact is, even the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention has already declared that the detention of Senator Leila De Lima was arbitrary, and the primary reason why she was detained was because she was speaking out against the government's war on drugs, which is right now under investigation by the International Criminal Court. It's diba? So whether she is a political prisoner or not, I think that is well established by the fact that evidence on record actually does not show any piece of evidence directly linking Senator Leila De Lima to the drug charges. And number two, there's a WGAD opinion, the Working Group on Arbitrary Detention of the United Nations. Okay, there was a rapporteur who why the good senator cannot be allowed to participate in the sessions of the Senate, considering that she is a duly elected senator and she has not yet been convicted. And what is actually being restrained is just her physical liberty for the temporarily. But as a senator, she should be allowed to actually participate in the Senate proceedings. Unfortunately, that was not granted, by the court, even though the sessions are online, and even by her colleagues. Una nagsumulat si Senator Leila De Lima sa Senate to allow her to actually participate. And nirefer siya sa court, hindi siya granted, that is unfortunate. And we've lifted the issue already to the Court of Appeal. So that is a pending issue. But our stand is, considering that she is a duly elected senator, she should be allowed to participate in Senate proceedings, especially since it is done online anyway.
What is the basis of the lower court to do that? I'm asking now ano hindi naman relative to the De Lima case. Pero I'm sure they must have given a reason, a judicial provision na because you are an accused, you can no longer exercise your duty as or obligations as a senator. Mayroon bang sinay yung lower court na yan?
Meron silang sinasabi no, na the restriction does not apply only on physical liberty but even on the practice of one's profession. No? We disagree there because when it comes to making an accused accountable, ang kailangan mo lang naman is to limit his ability to move around, to prevent from posing a threat to society. But
pasensya na ano no Attorney De Leon kasi nawiwirdohan ako niyan because as you know, my father was charged with libel when he was alive. They filed bail. Pag naka-file bail ka ba, you can continue to exercise your profession? Or is that the technicality with Senator De Lima dahil hindi siya nag-file ng bail or nag-request for bail, kanya hindi siya pinayagan? Or meron lang talagang sablay dun sa perspective na yun?
Kuhang-kuha mo, no? Pag nag-post ka ng bail, you can already practice your profession. Unfortunately, for this case of Senator Leila De Lima, the cases are what we call non-bailable because the charges are serious. They made sure that the charges that they will file are charges that are non-bailable, even though there's no connection to drugs whatsoever. Just to allay the misconception of the public, no? We actually filed a petition for bail for all the cases, and they are now pending resolution. It's just that there's so many witnesses, and a lot of them to us are not relevant witnesses, no, that is being offered by the government, by the state, by the prosecutors. So that's the reason why in criminal case 167 in particular, it is still under consideration. In criminal case 165, because there are only 2 remaining drug cases right now, it has already been rejected by the court. And they identified 2 witnesses who said, they gave money to Senator Leila De Lima. But if that's going to be the case, number one, we've stated that this is not a drug case pala. This is bribery, for example, or corruption of public officers, right? And that is bailable. If in the best case scenario, the incredible witnesses will be believed. But we said right from the start that these witnesses are suffering from credibility issues. But that was not taken into consideration with us.
Yeah, 2 individuals claim they gave money to Leila De Lima. Now, I can claim that I gave money to you. I can claim that I gave money to Adam. But the point is to prove the fact that the money was given, there is a paper trail, and that the money was received. Now, was that ever established?
What is important, actually, the most important for this case is that the money came from drugs. And there was no drug trader. There was no drugs. So there was just, they said, we gave money, we received it. This is the testimony, okay, Sika. The former Bucor official woke up, saw money beside him, and this is his testimony, beside him, and then somebody called and then said, bring it to Senator Leila De Lima. Somebody called his phone, he doesn't even know who, and then he did. And then, all of a sudden, that money came from drugs. And then all of a sudden, the testimony was believed that an anonymous call was made to the Bucor chief, and then the Bucor chief all of a sudden said yes and brought the money to Senator Leila De Lima. These are borne by records, no? So we said that the testimony itself is incredible. It's incredible. Why would you all of a sudden follow the command of an unknown caller and bring the money to Senator Leila De Lima? And then how did you know that it came from drugs? Right? So that's the reason why we filed a demurrer to evidence. So to begin with, the testimony is incredible. Number 2, there is no testimony that the money came from drugs.
Okay, now, I remember, and please, paki-correct na lang kung sablay na naman ako kasi tumatanda na tayo. Pero I remember that one of the principal witnesses against Leila De Lima, 1, if not 2, if not 3, have all died in one way or another. Can you clarify yung memory ko on that matter na marami yung tumistigo, nag-akusa kay De Lima, natepok, namatay sa COVID o namatay dun sa loob. And how does that affect the case?
Wala pong nag-akusa kay Senator Leila De Lima na drug trader, no? Isa ang sa at least sa criminal case 165, they were not able to offer one of their supposedly star witnesses, who is JB Sebastian, who allegedly died due to COVID. So in criminal case 165, we said that, this is already, that's the reason why we filed for a demurrer to evidence. Now, magically, Cito, and this is funny, no? And I want the public to actually be aware of this development. Because in criminal case 166, it has already been dismissed because there's no link to drugs. In 165, the only remaining evidence was this alleged money given to Senator De Lima, which was never traced to drugs, coming from incredible witnesses. In 167, all of a sudden, there is this witness who came. Because, 167 got dated. Around 4 or 5 judges have already recused themselves here. So all of a sudden, when the proceedings resumed, there's a witness whose name is Capones. Capones is the head of Sige Sige Sputnik gang. And then all of a sudden, he confessed that he is a drug lord. No? And he said that Senator De Lima was involved in drugs. So we were amused, right? But what's surprising is Capones, if indeed this administration is serious in fighting drugs, Capones was never charged. Even though the prosecutors have already been aware right from the very start, supposedly, if indeed they are believing their witness, their alleged star witness, why is it that he is not being charged, considering that he is not a state witness? He is not qualified to do so because he is a convicted criminal, having committed crimes that involving moral turpitude. So they've not charged Capones, but they've charged an innocent senator, Senator Leila De Lima. So which is it really? Do they believe that Capones is credible? In which case, are they committing dereliction of duty? Because they are not charging Senator Leila De Lima. So they're not charging Capones, right? So that is for the other case. So what we did, Cito, is we're the ones who filed. And we just conducted a hearing last Monday. As lawyers and Senator De Lima, we became the complainant. Because if you're saying that you're a drug lord, why is it that you're being allowed to roam around scot-free?
Pwede ba yan if you're basing it on self-incrimination?
Well, the strongest evidence under the law is a declaration against interest or a confession. In this particular instance, there's a confession in open court, but no charges. Surprisingly, why? What is the deal made with Capones?
Okay. Now, going beyond, kasi we are all being made to believe that the case of Leila De Lima is about drugs, is about corruption, etc. But what has Leila De Lima really said about it? Kasi parang I find it hard to believe that just because there is a new government, there is a new president, there is a new senator, they instantly become mortal enemies. Has the good senator ever expressed the belief that the reason why she was sent to jail one way or another was to pay or was as payback or revenge from other politicians that she basically prosecuted, persecuted while she was with the Aquino administration?
The good senator did her job when she was still the chairperson of the Commission on Human Rights. She, if you would recall, Cito, she was the one who launched the investigation against the Davao Death Squad, wherein she summoned then Mayor Duterte in a hearing, right? In open public, castigated what was happening him for what was happening in Davao. Apparently, it was not forgotten by the president. And the president, as we all know, this is positively found by a court of law in Pasig, is suffering from narcissistic personality disorder. So he took it personally. His ego was bruised, right? And then thereafter, Senator De Lima did her job as well as Secretary of Justice. So, of course, her belief is she was just doing her job because that was her sworn mandate. She had a sworn oath to uphold, and
Yeah,
that is to deliver justice.
Yeah, but is it really about De Lima versus Duterte? Kasi parang, I've talked to a number of people, and, and at my age, that I've been around.
Yeah.
And some people have said, Cito, hindi si Digong ang problema ni De Lima. Ibang tao ang problema ni De Lima na napakulong ni De Lima.
Ultimately, the Department of Justice is under the direct control and supervision of no less than the president. Now, I will agree with you personally. This is just my personal take.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
across
because
the senator's take.
you pointed out the fact that she is a political prisoner. Now, if she is a political prisoner, whose politics are we talking about?
Ultimately, the bucket stops at the president. But I agree with you, and this is just my personal opinion, that there are other forces out there that are out to get Secretary De Lima because she did her job as a Secretary of Justice. And how did that happen? What happened when she was Secretary of Justice? As you've mentioned, there are so many strong political personalities who who held into account at the very least, right? And were actually incarcerated temporarily, so to speak. Some of them actually suffered conviction, if you would recall. Now, one is a sitting senator right now, right? One of them was declared to actually have stolen money, but and asked to return the money, but was not actually convicted.
No, we're talking about Bong Revilla.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
siyang nag-prosecute kay Bong Revilla. Pero, ay kilala ko rin naman si Bong Revilla, para ring erap yan eh. Pagkatapos ng ilang buwan, ilang taon, parang, mo na yan, pas na yan, kalimutan na natin yan. But, are there any other candidates that she might have persecuted or prosecuted na talagang, I swear, by the names of all my ancestors, I will make you rot in jail.
Our stand, of course, the stand of the good senator, she never persecuted anyone. She was doing only her job. When she was Secretary of Justice, of course, she prosecuted, not persecuted. She did her job to prosecute certain powerful personalities, including President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo. If you would recall, Senator Leila De Lima even made the decision to prevent her from actually leaving the country because she hasn't received, the Department of Justice hasn't received yet the order from the court allowing.
Senator De Lima never. Is Senator De Lima fully convinced that her problem really is with Duterte or not?
We are certain that the Department of Justice and all the cases are under the direct control and supervision of, in terms of prosecution, the president. Now, as to whether there are other powerful forces out there, we're not naive, but of course, we are aware that there are a lot of people who are mad at the senator for doing her job when she was still Secretary of Justice.
Do you think Senator De Lima still has to wait until President Duterte is out of office until she sees the light of day? Quick answer na lang because we're down to 2 minutes.
Okay, ultimately, right, the justice system should work independently from the executive. So the reason why we're fighting this out is because we believe in the justice system. Hopefully, in the near future, whether or not President Duterte is there, the good senator will achieve justice. And we will fight for it, every inch of it.
Is she up for re-election? Will she run for re-election?
Yes, she is. In fact, Senator Kiko Pangilinan already declared that he will be running with Senator Leila De Lima. But, that's what I'm aware of. But let's wait for the official declaration of Senator De Lima herself.
Okay, now, medyo yan, naglalaktaw na yung utak ko kakatingin sa relo.
Topics,
yeah, I know, but I'm sorry, I really have to portion out the time. But, okay, so she's going to be up for re-election. She will run for re-election. You are hoping that justice will prevail. And at the end of the day, ang tanong ko, bakit biglang nabuhay na naman ang galit ni Digong kay De Lima? Has she been very active from her detention cell na parang, sige, ikaw, attorney, ikaw, ganito, ganyan. Parang, sabi ko, nananahimik yung ali except for the vaccine issue. Bakit parang ang init ang bigat ng dugo na naman bigla ni Presidente kay De Lima?
Give me a minute, but hopefully, just to give justice to the Senator De Lima's work, no, she's one of the most prolific senators, even from inside jail. She has authored so many laws, including the Four Peace Act, the Magna Carta for the poor, and a lot of other acts. No, she has passed more than 100 resolutions, so she has been very, very active. And the reason why the president is mad is precisely because she is mad at people who is extracting accountability from government. And the good senator has been vocal, and you can read her dispatches in her official Facebook page. No, she speaks on every important issue in this nation because from jail.
Yung Facebook page na pinapayagan ng kanyang detention.
Wala naman sila magagawa kasi hindi naman si Senator Leila De Lima nagpo-post. Nagsusulat si Senator Leila De Lima ng sulat kamay, pinapadala niya sa opisina niya through her dispatch kasi meron namang kumukuha ng mga dokumento na kailangan niya pirmahan at pinapadala.
At hindi pwedeng harangin yun ng mga jailers.
Hindi pwede kasi she is still innocent and these are clear dispatches. No? She can make statements from prison. So yun, galit na galit siya kasi ilang beses na rin natitira ang yung current government kasi palpak naman talaga yung mga response including sa COVID-19. Sabi nga niya, bakit tayo lahat nagbabayad, no, ng vaccine? So maraming issues na nakalagay doon. But
well, we will continue to, we will have a second part to this interview, I'm certain now, and let's see what happens. But if you do get to visit the good senator, pakibigay na lang yung kamusta ko at sabihin mong pinagdadasal ko rin siya. Sorry na lang, hindi ako makaminister sa kanya kasi ibang klase labanan dyan. Mauubos lang ang pasensya ko, baka magkasala pa ako kakadebate sa mga haharap sa akin.
Subukan natin Cito, no? Pero sa akin lang last na, we look forward to having another discussion, especially on the legislations, the programs of the good senator, how she has been working so hard inside prison despite the fact that she is persecuted and despite all her experiences right now. Ang dami niyang ginawa para sa bayan. No, I have mentioned a lot of bills, a lot of resolutions, and hopefully we can discuss that again in a future program.
Thank you very much, Attorney Dino De Leon. Thank you for giving us so much input and insight this morning. Please take care, and may the Lord continue to grant you divine wisdom.
Thank you very much, Cito, and God bless you. And lastly, let's all pray for Senator Leila De Lima. She needs it. She's been fighting for our nation, and all she asks is that we don't forget her in her prayers.
Amen. Okay, and we now go for a 1-minute break, and when we return, we go to our next guest, babae at lawmaker pa rin at palaban din here on Agenda. Okay, welcome back to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and you are watching us via Cignal TV channels 8 and 250. You can also watch us on facebook.com/OneNewsPH and on YouTube, enter OneNewsPH or download the Cignal Play app. Thank you very much to PLDT for their fiber optic internet service. Talagang naasahan. Let's go to our next guest, someone I've known for several years, Congresswoman Janette Garin, former Health Secretary and Representative of 1st District of Iloilo. Nandyan na ba si Congresswoman? I think so. I think so. And there we go. Congresswoman Janette Garin. Good morning, ma'am. Oops. Naghang yata. Hello. Naghang yata kasi pilit natin kinukuha si Congresswoman Janette Garin, former DOH Secretary, because if you recall, sometime last week or the week before that, medyo nagkaroon ng palitan ng pananalita between, there was an exchange of words between the Congresswoman and and Secretary Charlie Galvez, who's in charge of vaccines. Kasi parang feeling, and it's common among members of Congress and local government officials that medyo, nasa na yung vaccine? Bakit ko konti yung napupunta daw sa Iloilo? Last month or early in June, I believe we interviewed someone from Antipolo and the city of Antipolo, and they also expressed that back then. We are already on the ground, but we don't have vaccines. So what are we supposed to do? But in the case of Congresswoman Garin and Secretary Charlie Galvez, medyo parang hindi nakapagpigil si Secretary Galvez at sabing parang pinopolitika na yung vaccine. But we will find out from Congresswoman Garin, because here's the thing. I wrote about it. If you remember our interview yesterday with Joey Concepcion, the presidential advisor on entrepreneurship, he reassured us that the vaccines for the private sector will start coming on Friday. And it will be, ano ba yung Friday? So now is 14, Friday, July 16 at 9 a.m. via Thai Airways. Yun daw yung first batch ng vaccines for the private sector. Because there were no commitments before that. Kumbaga, pero weird lang po, and we didn't really have much time yesterday to go into the nitty-gritty. But many of you who are working in private companies do know that the general impression was that the vaccines for the private sector would be coming as early as March. Kasi marami tayo mga kaibigan sa private sector, mga CEOs, last year pa lang pinagmamagaling na darating na yung mga vaccine and magkakabakunaan na early this year. Anyway, we have again, let's try. There we go. Congresswoman Garin, good morning, ma'am.
Magandang umaga rin po sa inyo, Sir Cito. Magandang umaga sa inyo, mga sugid.
Okay, matanong lang namin, Congresswoman, what is the situation regarding vaccine supplies for Iloilo? Because last 2 weeks ago or a week ago, medyo there was an exchange between you and Secretary Galvez regarding the proper or equal distribution of vaccines. What is the situation now?
Well, we were told that vaccines will be coming in the next few days or maybe next week. No? So, hinihintay po natin yan at inaantabayan po natin yan because we're all ready to implement. It's just that we need the vaccines. Unfortunately, the surge that we wanted to prevent has already happened. And even in my area of constituency, where we have been aggressively testing, we have been aggressively contact tracing and isolating the positives. Nako-control naman siya, especially last year. Early this year, after the holidays, we had a surge. But again, we were able to control it with the help of the local government officials. No? Unfortunately, dahil nga medyo matagal yung bakuna, tumataas na rin ulit siya. And of course, if there's a surge, we know that the vaccines will not be the solution, because the impact of the vaccination will be felt at least 2 or 3 months from the date of the start of implementation.
Okay, so what are your views regarding yung strategy ng national government to deploy the vaccines where they are most needed because there is a spike or there is a abnormal number of cases.
Well, basically, vaccination is all about prevention, Zito. It's not a cure to a surge. Because if you have a surge, what is important there is to immediately identify the positives, isolate them at the earliest possible time, and do aggressive contact tracing and testing.
Mhm. You mentioned the term contact tracing. The health experts I've managed to speak with have all lamented the fact na we have focused too much again on vaccines, not contact tracing, the same way we focused on testing, not contact tracing, the same way we focused on uh, quarantine and not contact tracing. You're a former health secretary or secretary of health. Why is everyone pointing to the problem of contact tracing?
Well, basically, Sito, when you address a pandemic, it's very important to immediately identify the sources. We are at a war. Nasa gera tayo, and we can't even see our enemy. The only way that we're going to win this war is for us to see our enemies, to feel them. Where are they hiding? Where are they being clustered? And you can only do that by testing. So we have a very big problem since the start of the pandemic because testing became a business for many. Testing is not for free. Testing, while it is covered by PhilHealth, it became very chaotic because many people were not able to avail of it. In other words, if testing is not for free, unlike other countries, then we have a big problem because people are not being tested kasi pinamilya siya. So if you don't test, it's impossible to contact trace and to isolate the people as early as possible. The problem with the pandemic response, kasi dapat nagsasabay-sabay yan eh. You cannot have vaccination only. Testing and isolation should go hand in hand with vaccination because vaccination is there to build us a battalion of soldiers to combat the COVID and to also protect those who cannot be vaccinated. However, we have to keep on tracing where our enemies are. They have to go hand in hand. But here we are, we have bought a lot of test kits, but we can't even feel where they are. Even with the millions of test kits that we have bought, testing is not for free. So how can you entice people to come out? It's uncomfortable to be tested. No, it's not something that you want to look forward to being swabbed in the nose and in the throat. However, kung magbabayad ka pa at medyo masakit sa bulsa, so those are really the factors. And I've been very vocal repeatedly, no, paulit-ulit, parang sirang plaka na po akong nanawagan sa ating mga leaders that we have to make testing free or not make it affordable. Many people were so much afraid to touch the cost of testing. And that was something that was unbelievable for me because when you address a pandemic, testing is the first thing that you should strive to make it free. And then here comes the vaccines. Testing, isolation, and vaccination comes hand in hand. And now when we had the vaccines, it was meant by others as a way to address the surges. So it's wrong, no? Because while you can address the surge, it's like you have a fire. You cannot just stop the fire in the middle of the fire. You have to stop it from spreading. And may surge ka na nga. Hindi masyadong na-explain sa mga tao na yung bakuna ay hindi magic. The first job is not magic. It might not even be there to protect you. So people after the
Okay, I think we're suffering again.
they have this
there.
amulet to protect them. So kaya
Okay, Congresswoman, we'll go for a very quick break. We'll try to reestablish the connection and then we'll be right back here on Agenda. Okay, you're back here on Agenda, and we will try once again to connect with Congresswoman Janette Garin, former Secretary of Health. There we go. Congresswoman, if you can hear me, may we quickly find out from you what your suggestions are to do away with this impression na may palakasan in the vaccine distribution. What is your reaction to the debate over the use of face shields and the allowing of 5 years old and above to go out?
Okay. On the distribution of vaccines, it should be distributed proportionate to the target population. At dapat alam ng bawat bayan, bawat city, at bawat probinsya kung ilan yung bakuna ang matatanggap nila moving forward on a monthly basis. Because we know the vaccines that are coming on a monthly basis. However, there are instances where our vaccines are and our decision makers would need the vaccine for some areas, then they can touch on the buffer stock. There's actually a buffer stock, and that's between 10 to 20%. Ibig sabihin, pag dumating yung 10 milyon na bakuna, approximately 1.5 to 2 million of that is considered as a buffer stock. Now, on the issue of surges, the best thing to do there is to really make testing free in areas where there are surges. Government should absorb the cost of testing, because if we still pass it on to the patient and we expect PhilHealth to cover it, then we won't be able to win this war. Well, on the issue of face shields, marami po ako nakikita. Well, theoretically, it's good. The problem with it is that most people are not disinfecting their face shields. Now, they're using it several times. So the masks will be better. You choose either the mask or the face shield, especially for children who cannot tolerate the face shield. However, it's very important to just use this in the appropriate places where they are actually needed. Kasi yung iba, syempre, naka-face shield, it becomes a carrier or a vector for the virus. Now, I'm sorry, Cito, did I miss a question? Wala naman volume. Volume lang. Volume na lang dasigan.
No, my fault. Sorry, my fault, Congresswoman. Kasi merong dito, ambient sound dito eh. My last question was, what about allowing the kids outdoors?
You know, there are advantages and disadvantages. The mental impact of the pandemic is too much. No, I'm seeing a lot of patients, even in my district. We have people who have had COVID. They have already recovered, but it seems they were not able to move on. No? And in fact, we see some people getting depressed. And we also see some children who have not been infected with COVID. Mainitin na yung ulo, they're already becoming unreasonable, and children are now being hooked to playing games in the internet. It's all video games. No, there's no mental and physical well-being that is needed, no, in among children. So it's really something that should be balanced. It's something that we cannot avoid, and the only solution to this is to aggressively vaccinate.
Okay, so vaccinate the children. So you're supporting that move to allow, since Pfizer already said they can vaccinate, I think Sinovac is applied for that. So you support the vaccination of children?
Yes, because, you know, the children are less conscious when it comes to observing minimum public health standards. Especially children below 12 years old, below 10 years old, when they play, when they're with their playmates, it's very difficult to impose a continuous wearing of masks for them.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your inputs this morning, Congresswoman Garin, and we do hope to call on you again one of these days, because I am certain that in the next few weeks, or probably after SONA, our medical landscape is going to change as more people go out. And you and I are probably going to be discussing the outcome of all of these decisions. Thank you very much, Congresswoman.
Thank you very much, Cito. And just to explain to everybody, viruses travel, regardless of whether we have lockdowns or not. Lockdowns are not meant to solve our problems in this pandemic. Andiyan dyan ang lockdown for us to prepare. It's meant to help us in isolating the positives and being effective in contact tracing. So lockdowns, ECQs, MECQs is not a solution. It's just a breathing space for us because it's a matter of time that the variants will be coming to us. So we all have to unite and act with speed and unity. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much. That's an important reminder from Congresswoman Janette Garin of Iloilo 1st District. Thank you very much. And now let's move forward to our netizen report. Let's listen to your thoughts and opinions on today's issues. Here we go.
We ask your take on the proposal of Secretary Silvestre Bello III to abolish licensure exams in some professions, such as nursing. Brown RV disagrees with the suggestion. He says, "Kung tatanggalin niyo ang board exams, we will be left with incompetent professionals." Romel Manzano Bautista does not buy the idea. A big no, he says. Board exam is a gatekeeper to see who are competent. Ver Fungo, on the other hand, issues a question. Why not improve the quality of education instead and shut down schools with lagging results? Despite all that, Jan's shadow eye says yes to abolishing licensure exams. Jan suggests to replace it with on-the-job training. We also ask you, how do you think should the government address allegations of corruption? Tristan Irasamonte Jr. has a simple answer: transparency. Elmer J.R. Cordova says, these public officials should show their assets and liabilities to monitor their wealth. We want to make sure that they're not siphoning public funds. Richmond J. Dancel Tumaning suggests, I think the government should always inform the public all about government spending. The government should always be transparent when it comes to pecuniary matters. They need to at least inform the public with precise and exact figures.
Okay, that's a very abrupt end there. Anyway, that's the netizen report for today. The time is 8:59. You know, I just want to point out what Jan said. Jan Shadow Ice ba yun? Sabi niya, ang pangalan niya, she or he suggested on-the-job training and internship. You know, the suggestion of Secretary Bebot Bello to do away with licensure exams is controversial. But it forces us to address, rethink, and evaluate the situation. We need more nurses, more this, more that, more medtechs, etc. But because we were not getting enough passing board takers, we shut down their schools. Sabi nga ni John, bakit hindi mag-OJT, mag-internship, and even my dear sister Marisa reminded me the other day, Kuyang, remember when we were in UP, you had to do rural service? You know, internship, on-the-job training, rural service will reveal who is competent and who is incompetent. Hindi po yung katulad ba sa NBI clearance, trabaho ng police, ginagawa ng NBI na para malaman kung may record. So, just a thought there. Anyway, thank you for joining us this morning. Please continue to pray for the nation, for your family, and for me as well, kung pwede, and have a good day. Keep it here on Cignal TV channels 8 and 250, and that's today's agenda for you. I'm Cito Beltran, and we are One News.